Yo, what's good, everybody? So, I don't want to make this video way too long, but as you read the title, I'm actually not really sure what the title is going to be, but it's going to be something along the lines of if you feel depressed or sad, here are three things you can do to make it better, or here are things that you should implement right now in your life. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. And, you know, I think I'm somewhat qualified to talk about this because, I feel like a lot throughout the past few years, I've definitely been quite upset. A lot of the times, I wouldn't say necessarily that I have depression, maybe in certain periods, but I don't really want to like diagnose myself with depression. But I've definitely had a lot of challenging times in certain situations. And if you've watched any of my previous two videos or so, you would know that in the past 3 or 4 days have probably been some of the most challenging times of my life. And it's not like anything happened in terms of like a family member dying or anything along those lines. It's just internally, I've just really struggled with the concept of dying, the afterlife, and purpose and what am I even living for, right? And just nothingness as well. So I've definitely felt horrible in the past few days, but here are three things that I want to talk about that I feel that can definitely improve your life to some extent. And if you're actually depressed or you're sad, it might not, I'm not going to say it necessarily is going to just eliminate that, but it might help you feel a little better at least. So the first thing would be is to get better sleep. I feel like that's something I've challenged to do for quite some time now. When I was younger, I had a pretty strict deadline or timeline. Wait, I think, well, okay, you know what I'm trying to say, with when I had to go to sleep. When I was younger, it was probably like 8 p.m. and then 9 p.m. And then I think the most recent one was probably 10:30. And then obviously, as I got older, there wasn't really a time that I had to go to sleep. Obviously, my mom suggested for me to go to sleep at 11 by 11, but I would go to sleep usually at 12, sometimes 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And I would say that for the past year or so, that's pretty much stayed consistent. I would say that usually by 12 a.m., I do try to like, no matter what, go to sleep, but I should be definitely sleeping much earlier because I wake up every single day at 7 a.m. If I wasn't wake up at 7 a.m., I could probably get away with 12 a.m., but I have a pretty strict schedule in the morning in terms of just classes in general and just how I want to operate. So I always wake up at 7 a.m. It does differ on the weekends, but the problem is when I go to sleep at 12, even 11, I usually wake up around 10 to 11. Sometimes things even happen that I woke up at 12. That's horrible, especially as a student or someone that wants to do a lot of things in my life. It makes me quite unproductive because I wake up and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the morning is probably the best time to study because it just feels like you can do so much more work. Your brain is fresh and everything just works so much smoother. And then as the time goes by and you get into the evening, you definitely become less productive. So I would definitely suggest, just in general, to try to get better sleep. It can definitely help. Especially something that I faced a lot was when I would wake up and feel kind of depressed. Like the first 5 minutes, I didn't even want to like be alive, if that makes sense. And that's just because I'm that tired. And that's not a nice feeling to have. And obviously, it went away every single time, but it was still a very unpleasant feeling. And let's say the day before I wasn't feeling the best, it definitely translates onto the next day, and it's not something that you want to have. So if you can get better sleep, please do that. I think that the first thing you should do is just try to set yourself to sleep 10, 30 minutes sorry guys, 30 minutes earlier than usual. And also you can just do this by like trying to like cut on distractions. So for instance, if what you usually notice is that you're going to sleep late because you're on your phone, try to give yourself a specific time that you cannot go on your phone anymore. And this would be maybe a 10 p.m. And then when it's 10 p.m., you can't go on your phone. You can still stay up if you want, but realistically, there's not much you're gonna do, so you're probably gonna go to sleep, right? So that works really well. The second thing I would recommend is to exercise. I know myself, I'm very inconsistent when it comes to exercising, and I'm not advising you to get into the best shape of your life, even though that is probably very beneficial. And I think exercise just in general is something that you want to do because you feel better. And as we get older, there's more problems with our bodies, especially if you don't eat healthy. So you might as well take care of the only body that you have. So pretty much, exercising will make you feel better. You will look better probably. You will feel more energized, and you will just ultimately overall feel better. And that's what it all comes down to. If you exercise for a month straight, you cannot tell me that after that month you don't feel better. Obviously, there's certain situations where you might be doing over excessive exercises that might make you way too tired, and then you came and wake up the next day and have the energy to do your work. But I'm not telling you to do that. Even something as simple as going for a walk every single day for 30 minutes is better than nothing. And then eventually you can implement doing an exercise. Maybe you work out 3 days a week. You do push-pull legs one time in a week. And this can include simple exercises such as push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and stuff like that, right? Like, I'm not telling you to go like very intensively into exercising when you first begin. You should actually make it easier, if anything, because at least it'll allow you to stay consistent. Because what I've noticed that a lot of people make as a mistake when they first get into working out and going to the gym is that they set these goals, and then they notice that these are too easy of exercise to do. They make it harder, and then they either do the exercise wrong and they are super sore and can't even exercise for the next week or two, or they just feel unmotivated because they just feel so sore. And it's not even that they can't continue, they just don't want to go through this again. It's just too hard for them, it's too challenging. And obviously, if you stay consistent, you exercise for a few months, that's definitely something you want to get into, challenging yourself. But it's definitely not something I would recommend for a beginner. As a beginner, the main thing is consistency and actually being able to show up every single day. And then as time goes on, trying to challenge yourself into harder exercises that will challenge you and will make you, get better results in the end. And the last thing I would suggest to, I guess, feel better in general, cure depression. I don't know if it cures depression, but it definitely has an effect, is to cut off social media. I would just say, for most people, it's not something that you're gonna do. I would just say limit your time on social media. I know for myself, I feel like especially the past few days, I've just been consuming a lot of content that makes me always compare myself to others, and that is never a good feeling. I'm not saying comparing yourself to others is necessarily a bad thing at times, and obviously certain people want to look at others for competition, but whatever age you may be, when you look at social media, there's always going to be more successful people than you. And straight up, it's facts. And that feeling isn't always the greatest feeling. Also, there's other feelings that might make you feel worse as well. If you see your friends always having fun, you're not having any fun. Maybe you're just studying for exams. People already finished exams. It doesn't make you feel any good, right? And I don't know the actual I don't want to say psychology or the effect of social media, but I'm sure if you search it up, you do some of your own research, you can find out that social media is very negative for your brain, especially when it comes to making you feel worse. I think that's a statement that I'm going to sit on. Although I don't have, the evidence to back that up, I can say as a personal testimony, it has made me feel worse than better. And obviously, as I said, if you limit yourself and you go on it, let's say 30 minutes every day, an hour every day, sure, whatever, you're probably gonna be fine. But it's when you're on it for like 3 hours, 4 hours straight every single day, and it's not even like you're consuming anything that bad, but it's more like the time that you're wasting, and you're conscious of all the time you've wasted, and you're like, damn, I'm just running away here, just swiping, scrolling. Nothing's changing my life. And then that thought process is what might make you feel worse. So yeah, I think that's all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope I was able to be somewhat educational to you, and yeah, peace.